Hello, Packers fans, and welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill. It is a big week here in Green Bay as the Packers get ready to take on the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Divisional round on Saturday. And we are joined today by Laura Britt. Laura covers all of the 49ers for NBC Sports Bay Area. Laura, thanks so much for taking a few minutes with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. This is a big week.
It is a big week, and a week that I think a lot of people would admit they didn't see coming for the 49ers at the beginning of the season. But the last few weeks, it's been more and more like people sort of catching on, hey, this 49ers team is hitting their stride at the right time, figuring out what they want to do. And when I talk to Packers fans on social media or through our podcast or out and about in Green Bay, there's been a growing sense of, oh, crap, we might have to actually play the 49ers. And I don't know if that's a team we want right now. What is the feeling like in the Bay Area from when you get to be around fans? Are they excited? Does it feel like they're already booking their tickets for the NFC Championship? What sort of vibe do you get?
Well, they're definitely not taking any week for granted. As you said, this Niners team really struggled. I mean, they went on a losing streak. Their first loss of the season was to the Packers in week 3. So they had gone on the road, gotten 2 easy wins, and then faced the Packers Sunday Night Football, Levi's Stadium. They almost win that game. Aaron Rodgers ends up finding Devontae Adams late in the game, and then Mason Crosby kicks the field goal. The rest is history. Well, that was the first loss for this Niners team in 2021. It was a roller coaster after that. But one good thing about that for this team from the Niners perspective and Niners fans perspective is this is a tested and proven team. This road has not been easy for the 49ers. So I would say no fan is punching their ticket or trying to buy their ticket right now to the NFC Championship game. I really do think this team, and Kyle Shanahan has said this, they're taking it one game at a time. You hear that all the time in the NFL. This team is really living that. They don't take a game for granted. They don't look ahead. They've seen how bad it can be, and they don't want to get back there. So they've turned things completely around. And I think that's fair for Packers fans to feel that way about this 49ers team. Hey, I don't want to face this team. I think a lot of teams are feeling that way about this 49ers team because they struggled with their identity in the middle of the season. Who is this team? To be honest, when they were on their losing streak, I didn't think this team was going to be able to pull themselves out of it. It's really tough. I talked with Jerry Rice about this when the 49ers were struggling. And I said, can you find your identity as a football team in the middle of the season? He said, it's really difficult. I mean, just think about having to completely shift who you are as a team. And how do you do that when you've got these games coming at you, firing at you each and every week? That's what this team has been able to do. It's been a crazy roller coaster. It's been a wild ride. They're tested. They're proven. They are getting healthy. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now to key players, but guys that they're expecting to see to be able to play on Sunday against the Packers.
You said a lot of good stuff in that, so I'm just going to kind of go through it one by one. Let's start with not knowing who they were. As you said, they didn't really have an identity. And then I think it was probably about, at least from my point of view, I'm sure you had a better look at it, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, it was like all of a sudden something clicked. Like, hey, we know what we do well and we know what we don't do well, and we know how to take advantage of the former and avoid the latter. How much of that, from your opinion, came about when they decided to use Deebo Samuel in a different way?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. When you look all the way back at week 3, when the Packers and Niners faced off, I'm just looking at the box score here. Trace Sermon was the 49ers leading rusher. That is no longer the case. Rookie Elijah Mitchell is the go-to guy. Kyle Juszczyk was the second leading rusher in that game, which the 49ers do use Kyle Juszczyk a lot. But I look at Deebo Samuel, he had 2 carries for 0 yards.
Right. I looked at that yesterday and I was like, what? Oh, somebody was like, oh yeah, sure, Deebo. Sure. We'll just hand it off to you real quick.
Yeah. Well, it's worked. That's worked for the 49ers in the past few weeks. And really the turnaround happened in week 8. So it was a little bit further back. In week 8, the 49ers went to Chicago to face the Bears. They get the win. They come back and lose to the Cardinals, but then they string off 3 wins. And it was against the Rams, where in week 10, Monday Night Football, that was the game where you thought the Niners are going to get blown out. They had a terrible game against the Colts in week 7. It was do or die at that moment. And the 49ers beat the Rams 31-10. Mm-hmm. It was the moment in the season that this team figured out their identity. I think it started in week 8 in their win against the Bears. And then week 10, when they beat the Rams, it was, this is who we are. This is our identity. Kyle Shanahan challenged the team during that week to rush the ball 40 times. They exceeded that number. And that's who this team is. Jimmy Garoppolo operates a lot better when the run game's going. That's how he works. That's how Kyle Shanahan's offense works. So when one aspect of the 49ers offense, either the passing aspect or the running aspect, gets shut down, the team does struggle a lot more. But it was all the way back there that the 49ers figured out who they are. Then they've put together just a really impressive streak of wins. I think their week 18 win over the Rams in overtime, it all goes into them being tested, which is what I was talking about. They had an overtime win over the Bengals in week 14, and they've really fought for every single victory. That's not necessarily the case for every single team, and especially a team when you're lucky enough to have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's able to make up for a lot of wrongs. Mm-hmm. I think this 49ers team, sure, special teams has not been doing as well as the 49ers would like, but they really have to fight for every single victory. Deebo Samuel does correct a lot of wrongs. He can make plays when there are none, but it's got to be a true team effort by the Niners.
49ers fans will be happy to hear, though, as well, that the Packers special teams have been less than ideal this year. I think that the Mason Crosby field goal versus San Francisco was the shining moment. It has been all downhill since then for the special teams. You mentioned how much Jimmy Garoppolo and this 49ers offense leans on their run game. The Packers defense have been suspect in the run defense when they face a balanced offense. They seem to be able to shut down one thing or the other. If they have a team like the Vikings, they were able to hold Dalvin Cook to, I think, 13 yards on 12 carries, able to shut down the Browns. When they can focus on the run, they can shut that down. They struggle when it's balanced. I guess basically what I'm asking is, would you have trust in Jimmy Garoppolo and some wide receivers on the outside, or maybe even down the middle, to counteract if the Packers defense only focuses on shutting down the 49ers run game? Can this game be put in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands and 49ers pull out a win?
He's done it before. He's done it in 2019. He's had some games that were in his hands. We all know the NFC Championship game from 2019. How did the 49ers win that game?
When he threw 8 passes.
Yeah, it wasn't through Jimmy Garoppolo. It was through the run game. This is also a mastermind game between Shanahan and LaFleur. Mm-hmm. I mean, they go way back. They know each other so well. Shutting down the 49ers run game is not an easy task. It's a different team in that they have left tackle Trent Williams. I actually work now, a colleague of mine is the former left tackle from that 2019 season, Joe Staley. And I've talked to him a lot about this, but Trent Williams is on another level. He finished the 2021 season as the highest graded Pro Football Focus player since they've been doing it, of any player ever. That's how good Trent Williams is. He's such a leader. Kyle Shanahan spoke about Trent Williams talking to the team. As good as Trent Williams is, he hasn't had many opportunities to play in playoff games. He's preaching to the younger guys how critical this time is. You might never get back here. Alex Mack, the center for the 49ers, who came here in the offseason, he is a guy that's preaching that. It took me a number of years to be able to get to the playoffs, to be able to get a playoff win. This is not something that this 49ers team says, it's a playoff game. Let's just go in there and see how it works out. Even though they have youth, they've got, Elijah Mitchell, they've got younger guys on their team. They're not taking it. The leadership is overtaking the youth of their team and really helping them recognize the moment and recognize how special this is. And I'd hate to kind of go back to the simplicity of chemistry of a team, but there is something to that. What makes up a team? What is the DNA of a football team? And this 49ers team has that special DNA. They talk about it a lot, and it's a focus. It's been a focus of General Manager John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan's about who they bring in to this team. And the locker room is really a unit that meshes well together. They get along, they like each other, they have one vision, and it's not a prideful team in a sense that they're all about each individual self. This is a prideful team in that they want to go out and win a lot of games. They want to do it in dominating fashion, but they're not looking to pad individual stats.
Mhm.
Deebo Samuel has padded stats, not because he wants the ball. He wants to win the game. Who
Mhm.
gives them that best opportunity? Well, it's typically Deebo Samuel. And in the last game, he went up to coach. He said, Kyle, give me the ball. I
Mhm.
got you. And you know what Kyle Shanahan did? Gave him the ball. Deebo Samuel gets a touchdown, and the 49ers are now in the divisional round facing the Packers.
Mhm.
So it's a team that has a lot of trust from the head coaching staff all the way into the locker room. And I don't think you can breeze by that. It's a really meshed well team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Meshed well. I like it.
Meshed well. I don't know that. I don't think that that's a word, but hey, I can make up words, right?
Shakespeare made up words all the time.
All
You
the
can make up
time.
words. You mentioned the chemistry of this team, and that is so important. And that's something that Aaron Rodgers has mentioned as well, that the makeup of this team reminds him so much of the 2010 team that won a Super Bowl. But that can be affected somewhat when guys go out and come back. You talked about the 49ers getting healthy again. Packers have done the same as well. They welcomed back I think like 6 injured players over the past week and a half to practice. How much could those players coming back like mess up the apple cart, so to speak? And how much do you need possibly Fred Warner and Bosa back in there to keep that chemistry alive in the front seven?
If the 49ers do not have Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on Sunday, there's no way around it. That'll be a devastating blow to the 49ers.
Mhm.
Bosa still, as of Wednesday, is still in the concussion protocol. Fred Warner has an ankle sprain, but it's not a high ankle sprain. He is expected to play, I would say, on Sunday. Nick Bosa, it's hard to determine if he's going to be able to clear the concussion protocol. Kyle Shanahan can't make that call. It's the doctors that have to make that call. So that's going to be a wait and see moment. I was really impressed with Nick Bosa's performance, or the defensive line, rather, their performance in the second half. They didn't have Nick Bosa in the second half
Mhm.
of their super wild card weekend matchup. They didn't
Mom
have him.
game.
Yeah, whatever you want to, super wild card weekend.
Yeah.
They didn't have him. They didn't have him for the second half. And the 49ers were able to sack Dak Prescott 5 times as a team.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing to do, I would think, when you look at Dak Prescott and just his makeup in general.
Right.
So I was really impressed. It was a lot of guys that aren't the Nick Bosa splashy name that you see all the time. And I think that's what's scary about this team, is they have depth in areas like that. So whether or not Nick Bosa is able to play, they played the entire second half of that Cowboys game without him. And they played part of the second half also without Fred Warner, who is the quarterback of the defense. He wears the green dot. He is a captain on this team, and he really elevates and expects a high level of play around amongst those around him. So those would be 2 big blows. I don't think it's not a thing that the 49ers could overcome, but it would be tough.
Hurt.
It would be tough.
Yeah. And this game is probably going to be on the ground because of how cold it is, because of the strengths of both of these teams. Let's see.
Are you going? Are you going to the game?
I will be there, bundled up. Will you be there?
Freezing? I will not. We're doing our shows. We've got our 49ers insider, Matt Mayoko, will be there, and our reporter, Jennifer Lee Chan, they go. I'll be holding down the studio in San Francisco with Dante Whitner, Joe Staley, Takeo Spikes. We do all of our pre and post game and halftime coverage from San Francisco. So I'll be warm. I'll be sending warm thoughts your way.
Well, enjoy the California sunshine while we will be dealing with a high of 22, a low of 5, and 50% chance of snow.
Oh, yay. I lived in Chicago for 5 years, so I know all about
it. That's a good point. That's a good point. And to that point, Jimmy Garoppolo actually said yesterday we were able to join the 49ers Zoom. He said, I grew up playing in this weather. He grew up in Chicago. He's like, I'm used to it. So he knows this game is going to go to the ground. That's what happens when it gets cold. It's harder to throw the ball. It doesn't travel as well. But let's say, just for hypothetical sake, that this game does end up in the air, and that would hurt probably both teams, I would say, because Packers, even with Aaron Rodgers, have a 1-2 punch with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon that is brutal. But let's say it does go to the air. Like you mentioned earlier, Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams played a huge factor in that week 3 win for the Packers against the 49ers. They like to take advantage of the sidelines and down the edge. Do the 49ers have a secondary that you would trust to shut down that attack?
I think that's a great point to bring up, because the 49ers secondary has been banged up for a lot of the season, but they got Emmanuel Moseley back. They've got rookie Ambry Thomas, who's been tested and proven. And so those two players look to be the starters, and Ambry Thomas has made a difference for the Niners in clutch moments to shut down games and give the Niners the victory. So it's a tall task. You can't shut down Devontae Adams. You can't. It's like Deebo Samuel. Like, yeah, you can do your best and try. Inevitably, Devontae Adams is going to get catches. He's going to make big plays. You've got to try and pressure Aaron Rodgers. You've got to try your best as a defense, if you're the 49ers, not to show your cards to Aaron Rodgers. He will try and snap the ball as late as possible to see if the defense will show him anything. I think that's a big focus for the 49ers defense. DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator, in his first year as the defensive coordinator for the Niners when Robert Saleh left to be the head coach of the Jets. So he's done a great job evolving into that role. And he was on, his play calling was on, DeMeco Ryans was on full display in that Cowboys game. But I think the Niners have a lot of trust in Emmanuel Moseley and in Ambry Thomas. They're going to be key in this game, but the reality is there's not really any shutting down Devontae Adams. He's going to make plays. Aaron Rodgers loves to get the ball to him. You understand why. Who wouldn't? If you got Devontae Adams, get him the ball. And that's how the 49ers feel about Deebo Samuel. And you look at this becoming a tough physical game, to kind of go back to one of your other questions. No guy wants to bring down Deebo Samuel. Nobody wants to bring down George Kittle. These guys look for contact. And so if I'm a Packers fan, I think that's something to watch in this game. Is Deebo Samuel is really tough. George Kittle is really tough. George Kittle might be listed as a tight end, but you know what he prides himself on? He prides himself on blocking for his team.
Pancakes, right?
That's all he cares about. You might look at the stats from this year for George Kittle and go, where has he been? Well, the reason Deebo Samuel's stats are so padded is because he's had George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, guys blocking for him. And the emergence of Brandon Ayuk has been a big part of this 49ers team. And that had not happened in the week 3 game. There are really a lot of elements at play here, and week 3 feels like a lifetime ago. I mean, it was, we've gone through 50 COVID different protocols since then.
Yeah. But different worlds.
Yeah, exactly. These teams are both so different in the Packers and the 49ers since they faced in week 3. But there are a lot of different elements at play for the Niners and now who their identity is as a team. And it's all about Elijah Mitchell, the running back. It's all about Deebo Samuel. It's all about tough physical football. It's about the emergence of guys that they weren't expecting, including Ambry Thomas and Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, that's a great point about how it can be so physical. Laura, if you don't know, Laura and I are both from Alabama, where it does not get this cold that often. I've learned since being in Green Bay, Laura, and as you mentioned, you had been in Chicago for a while, so I'm sure you learned this there as well. The concept of like a cold weather back had never occurred to me. Did not know it was a thing, but apparently when the colder it gets, the harder you hit the longer it stings. And
I buy that. Because if I would be terrible in these games. I don't know if you realize I should not ever be a football player. If I stub my toe and it's 30 degrees, I cry for 2 hours.
I'm done for the day.
My finger, I can't feel my fingers.
Yes,
I'm not
think
into
about
that.
when you hit your finger on your car door or something when it's cold.
Imagine, going full blown.
Imagine taking on George Kittle at 5-degree weather.
Yeah, it is the frozen tundra for real. But this is an interesting thing that Joe Staley, the former left tackle for the 49ers, brought up to me recently. He said when he went to Green Bay for games like this, and Dante said a similar thing. Some guys don't wear the shirts, try and whatever you got to do to get your mind right. Kyle Shanahan said, do it. Shanahan said, I'm going to be fully dressed for the event. But if guys want to wear, no sleeves under their jersey, whatever they want to do,
that strong.
However you mentally prepare for it is whatever you got to do. But Joe said it was almost, you want it to be that cold almost when you go to Green Bay. You wanted it to be that type of game because there's this whole buildup to, that's what the Packers are built on,
Yeah.
And so when you go to Lambeau, you're fully expecting that. And that's how Kyle Shanahan's preparing the team. He was asked recently, yesterday, if there's anything that the 49ers can do to prepare for the cold. And he said, no, not really. No, there's just, you mentally have to prepare for it, and you can dress for the weather if you so choose, but it's really about the mental game. It's here.
Yeah, exactly. And as Pete Carroll would tell you, make sure not to throw your hand warmer out as a challenge flag. You're going to need to hold on to that. Keep that in mind. They sell those in the Packers Pro Shop, and Matt LaFleur came
for
in
$50
there. Yeah, I go get the little cheap ones from Cabela's that you just shake. Yeah, Matt LaFleur came in with it. He said, "Y'all know what this is? It's a challenge flag." It was funny. Anyways, it will be a great game. This has become a pretty standard playoff game now, it seems, the past couple of years between 49ers and Packers. Packers have definitely had their eye on the Super Bowl since the beginning of the season. But as you said, the 49ers know how to grind it out game after game. I know you probably have an official place you have to put predictions, but if you want to offer any final predictions here, I will give you a moment to do so.
So I'm not going to give you a score in this game.
Smart.
But I'll give maybe I will. All right, I'll give you a score. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, not out of control high scoring. I think the 49ers have a good shot at pulling this thing out. Mm-hmm. It would not surprise me at all if the Packers win this game. It's a stacked team. You've got Aaron Rodgers, the reigning NFL MVP, and might darn well be it again. Mm-hmm. And when he's on a mission, it's really hard to stop him. But obviously being so ingrained with this Niners team, maybe a little bit biased just in being around this team every day and seeing their makeup. I think the Niners are going to be able to pull it out. I'm going to go 49ers 28, Packers 21. I
can see that. I was thinking 2024. But I'm not ready.
Yeah, maybe a little lower. I might be going a little too high there because of the temps, but
especially if it snows, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult.
That's going to make it a lot more difficult. Yeah. Might be a lot of Robbie Gould field goals. That's how
exactly. And see, that's the thing. If it comes down to field goals, I mean, you've got Robbie Gould and Mason Crosby, who Aaron Rodgers has said are the two best kickers he's ever seen in his life. He said, I asked him something a few weeks ago about Mason Crosby, and he said, well, Mason Crosby and Robbie Gould are the two best kickers I've ever seen. But
that'd be a good showdown.
Yeah, exactly. But these special teams units for both teams have not been great. So we will see.
That could be something to watch in the game.
Yeah. And now that I think about it, that's a great point. Like that could end up being like
the deciding
factor. Yeah. So I'm going to say 2024, but I'm not going to say who I think wins or who I think lose because I don't know yet. And that gives me an out. I was right or wrong either way.
I'll go Niners. I'll say it.
Do it. Just, go ahead. Stick to it. Stick to what you believe in.
Oh, yeah.
I like it. Laura, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we will hear from you again down the road, and stay tuned. If you can catch any of Laura's stuff, if you want to see from the 49ers point of view this week, tell them one last time where they can find you.
Yeah. So Matt Mayoko, our 49ers insider, who is a Hall of Fame voter, has been covering the 49ers for almost 30 years. We do a podcast called 49ers Talk. You can just search that wherever you get your podcasts. Most of the other stuff is on air in the Bay Area, so you probably won't be able to see it. We've got a YouTube channel, the NBC Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. And if Packers fans have some extra time and really want to dive into some of this, I work with Dante Whitner, Joe Staley, Takeo Spikes. They all do these incredible breakdowns, and you can go watch some of that stuff, watch some of the shows, and get a sense of who this 49ers team is. You can find some of that there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'll have to go check out those videos too. Thanks so much again, Laura.